Hey folks, we're going to get started in just a minute here. Thanks for joining us and getting settled in. There are some questions coming in through chat. Just to let you know, just so we can move the meeting along, we're going to have chat just go to our hosts today, our co-hosts, the Bylaws Committee and the Board of Directors. And so if you have any questions at all, feel free to just send it into chat and we'll all see that. And there was a question about sharing an amendment. If you have it prepared already, you can send that to bylaws@hungermountain.coop would be the address to direct that to. Or you can drop it here you can just drop it into the chat in Zoom and we'll see that as well. And I also see a question, if you want to rename yourself here in Zoom, you can click on your own little video picture. There's the little dots there. You can click on that and you should have an option to rename. If you want to include any more information or rename yourself, go ahead and use the rename button.
Hi, folks. Sorry for the delay. Good evening. Thank you for being here for this special member meeting of the Hunger Mountain Cooperative Membership. As president of the Co-op Council, I'm calling this meeting to order at 6:02 p.m. Recognizing the co-op's bylaws needed work, the council created the Bylaw Committee in 2018. We asked the committee to review our current bylaws, research updates and alternatives, and bring back a proposal. They spent more than 2 years developing the work before you tonight, including sharing drafts with members and incorporating feedback. We accepted their recommendations in early 2020 and plan to have this meeting that spring when the pandemic changed our plans. After 2 years on hold, we feel it is time to move forward and ask you to consider the proposed changes. It is now up to the members to decide. While we would prefer to have members attend this meeting in person, for those of us who want to, we judged it is not safe to gather in person at this time. Of course, we have learned a lot about online meetings over the past 2 years and more. During that time, we have staged 2 annual meetings in which members voted to approve the previous annual meeting minutes. Tonight, we will be voting on many items. We scheduled to go We are scheduled to go until 8 p.m. tonight. Stick around to hear who are the winners of our raffle prizes. Tonight, we have invited Paul Gillies to be, Paul Gillis to be our meeting moderator. Paul is known for, among other things, his work as a lawyer and a local historian. He has served as Berlin town moderator for 21 years. He also taught moderating for many years. We appreciate his willingness to lend his expertise to our meeting here tonight. If there is no objection, I appoint Paul Gillis to be our moderator for this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva, and good evening. As moderator, my function is to ensure this meeting is run by Robert's rules. This means that each article must first be moved and seconded. Once before the assembly, I'll be recognizing a member of the Bylaw Committee who will appear in audio only on a recorded message explaining the article. Debate may follow. As moderator, I will recognize members who wish to speak. I'd ask, given the limited amount of time we have, that you limit your comments to 2 minutes or so. An article may be amended. If moved and seconded, debate then turns first to the amendment. A vote is taken, and if it passes, the main motion is amended and is then voted. All amendments must be in writing and submitted through the chat function on your screen. You may hear a little different answer on that later as someone explains the voting methods. Because this is a Zoom meeting, voting on articles will occur by the method to be explained by Rowan Sherwood using the token. Voting on proposed amendments to the articles as warned will be done through the reaction function at the bottom right of the screen using the check or X functions. We'll also use that method of voting on procedural motions such as appeals from rulings of the moderator. If a challenge is made to my ruling, I will put this question to the assembly. Shall the moderator's decision be sustained? A majority in favor of the question is required to uphold the ruling. The co-op's bylaws require that 90% of those voting approve any amendments to the bylaws. You should know that we only have 2 hours allotted to this meeting, and hopefully we will have completed our business within that time. Once the articles have been considered, the winners of the raffle will be displayed on one of the screens. Zoom meetings can be trying, and Zoom meetings with more than 100 members require special care. I ask your patience and understanding as we work through our agenda this evening. Thank you. I will recognize Rowan Sherwood for voting instructions and the establishment of a quorum.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here tonight. And I'm going to explain how we are going to vote on this the proposed changes being presented tonight. So make sure that you have your voting token handy. It was emailed to you a few times, including about an hour ago. The token is a 5-character combination of letters and numbers that you will enter to get into the voting website named Mentimeter. A link to the voting website is posted in the chat. Please open that now and keep it open in your web browser throughout the meeting. You will only need to enter your token once. If you are joining from a household with more than one membership under the same roof, you will need to access the ballot from separate devices. For example, one of you can use the computer you are Zooming on, and the other can pull it up on a phone or a tablet. If you don't have an extra device handy, you can also open the ballot in a separate web browser or in your browser's private browsing mode. And there's some instructions on the slide here. It gives you a little more, it gives you the link there as well and some more details. A quick note about visitors. There are a few observers here tonight. They were not issued voting tokens and do not have access to the voting website. So once people have their the website open, we want to try a practice vote. This practice vote is important because it's going to help us to establish quorum and make sure that everything is working correctly. If you have any difficulty, please let us know in the chat. Okay, so hold on. I'm going to myself open up this voting website also so that I am in there. All right, bear with me for a sec. This will give everyone a chance to open it, including myself. And hold on a second. I'm just trying to get a handle on things. Okay. Okay. So if folks have the voting website open, enter your voting tokens, and we're going to try a practice vote. Hopefully this is working for everyone. Okay. So Joel, can you see if people are having success getting into the voting website?
Yes, we've got some folks coming in. Yep.
Okay.
I'm just going to leave this information up to give as many people, just to make sure.
Yeah. Yep.
It's available.
Yep. So maybe we'll just wait a few more minutes to give people a chance to log in, and then we can do a practice vote. Okay. Joel, would you maybe let us know when it seems there's a good number of people to try the practice vote?
Sure. Yeah. I see folks coming in there. We can try our practice vote. Let's.
All right. I am not seeing the slide to cast
Are you
a
ready?
vote.
Are you ready to start the test vote?
Yeah, I mean, it
Great.
doesn't seem
Let's
like there's
go
enough
ahead.
people to give that a try. Yeah, let's give that a shot. Okay, so just, oh my goodness. Okay. I am not seeing anything coming up. Are you able to see anything?
The results should be on your screen.
Oh, okay. I can. Something. My screen is looking a little weird, but that is okay. I do. Okay, I see it. I somehow did something with my screen.
And can we pause for just one moment? There's a couple folks who are having trouble getting their token. So
Okay.
I can get that for you. I can respond in chat to the folks that need their token.
Okay, because for some reason, I am not seeing questions in chat. But if you can do that, that's great. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Like I said, we'll only have to enter the token once. So once we're all in there, it should be smooth.
We don't want to leave anybody behind here.
No, we certainly do not. Everyone to have their voice.
I'll just share this again in chat if folks are having trouble finding the link to access the ballot. I just put that, I'll just put that in chat for us. One more time.
Okay, oh good. It looks like a few more folks are.
Joel, can you say again what the subject line was of the email containing the voting token?
Of course. That was the voting information for Hunger Mountain special board meeting. I will put that in chat as well.
Thank you.
And I am feverishly responding to your chat questions. So just bear with me while I get you your links and your tokens.
Thank you, Joel, for handling that.
Someone's having trouble accessing the bylaw page on the website. Did we crash the Hunger Mountain website? I will note that we did get quorum on our test vote.
Excellent.
And I believe I've got all of the issues addressed. Do let me know in chat if I am mistaken.
Okay. So with that, I will, excuse me, sorry. I can move on to, so it seems like that is working for everyone. If continue to let us know in the chat if you have any problems. And it does appear as if we have quorum, so we can continue. Now, we may have a scenario where an amendment is made or a procedural vote is needed during the course of this evening. Since we could not know this ahead of time and could not create it in the voting website, we'll use a slightly different system for voting on those items. If we need to vote on an amendment or any other issue that comes up that is not part of the prepared proposal, we will use the reaction option offered in Zoom. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, you will see reactions with a little face above it. And if you click on that, you'll see a green check and a red X. We'll use the green check for yes and the red X for no. And so just to make sure that we're all good with that, we'll do another practice vote. Hopefully this one will go a little quicker. So I'm just going to ask a quick, simple question and try using your reaction button to vote. So on this hot Vermont evening, do you like ice cream? Okay, and it looks like we have some good numbers coming in on that. People are good with that function. That's great. I also want to say a few words about the chat function. During our discussion periods, after each voting item is presented, you can either ask a question in the chat or by raising your hand in the Zoom functions. And we will be toggling back and forth between these two. We will try to answer everyone's questions, especially in the chat, if we're noticing like multiple people asking a similar question. We may not address each individual person, but consolidate the question and answer it for everyone. So that's all that I have. Thanks for your patience, everyone.
Thank you, Rowan. Let's get down to business. The first item is an amendment to the Articles of Incorporation. Shall the co-op's Articles of Incorporation be amended as follows? And there's a description of what remains, and the caption is removing language from the Articles of Incorporation that might be read to prohibit votes by paper or electronic ballot. I would recognize Carl Etnier to describe Article 1.
Thank you, Paul. The Articles of Incorporation are a document every cooperative in Vermont must have. They are filed with the Secretary of State's office. For some reason, I don't know why, our Articles of Incorporation are called, quote, Articles of Restatement of Hunger Mountain Cooperative, Inc., unquote. The section on membership contains a section on voting by proxy. Its language is a bit complicated, but basically it says that at member meetings like this one, you can't vote on behalf of someone who isn't there. Now, there may be organizations that are members, like another co-op, for example, and these organizations may authorize an individual to vote on their behalf. This amendment simply restates that, the substance, in simpler, clearer language. As we said in the documents prepared for this meeting, some of the items we're voting on today are supported by the Bylaws Committee by consensus. Others we did not arrive at a committee position on, but we thought the issues were important to take to members. For this item, the Bylaws Committee supports the clarification. This is not a substantive change, and we like clear language.
Paul, you're muted.
Again, the article to be voted is, shall the co-op's Articles of Incorporation be amended as follows, according to the Article 4 of membership. I need a member to move the article before the assembly. Is there someone who will do that so we can talk about it? I see Eva has done so, and I'd ask for a second. And I see Sylvia Fagan has
And we have a
seconded. Thank you.
second from Linda Kelly.
Or Linda Kelly. The minute taker need not put down the names of the seconder. That's not usually included. Debate is now open. Who has questions or who has an opinion? The floor is open.
And you can submit your questions via the chat in Zoom. If you'd like to speak aloud, you can indicate that. We do have the ability to turn on your microphone and let you leave your feedback live in the meeting.
I should pause now. I see in the chat room that William Donovan has a point of order to make, and he cannot unmute himself. Can someone help me do that so that we can hear from him?
I can unmute William Donovan, yes.
William?
Okay, there it is. Before I make my point of order, I'd like to say I don't know why it's so controlled here. I mean, if people need to say something, they should be able to have access to their own mute button.
Well,
So
it could lead to a sort of Tower of Babel situation. So I think,
Well, I know, but it shouldn't be so controlled. This is a meeting of the members, not a meeting of the council and the committee.
is that your point of order?
No, my point of order is I have 2 points of order to make. The first one is calling into the question the validity of this meeting to conduct its business electronically. At issue is the distinction between in-person meetings and electronic meetings. In Article 5 of our bylaws, under deliberation and voting, it is noted that questions concerning procedure shall be resolved by means of reference to Robert's Rules of Order. So in turning to Robert's Rules on page 81, there are basic definitions of terms for meetings. Beginning with line number 13 on page 81, the distinction is mentioned above between in-person and electronic meetings, and it's succinctly and very clearly defined. What it says about a meeting is, quote, "A meeting is an assembly is a single official gathering of its members in one room or area," quote unquote, one room or area, "to transact business for a length of time during in which there is no cessation of recordings of proceedings." Then it continues and it says, "For modifications of the one room, one area, when bylaws authorize electronic meetings, see pages 99 to 97. So, I mean, what they're saying with that is that, you know, there's only one option for other than one room or one area, and that's when the bylaws authorize it, which we don't. If you turn to pages 97 to 99, it says an entire section is devoted to clarifying the use of electronic meetings as opposed to in-person meetings or one room, one area. It states, "Except as authorized in the bylaws, the business of an organization or board can be validly transacted only at a regularly or properly called meeting, that is, as defined on pages 81 and 82, which I just cited, one room, one area. A single official gathering in one room or area of the assembly at which the quorum is present." So, I mean, this is just as clear as can be. Does the chair have a copy of Robert's Rules to review that?
I think we're going to take your point of order up now, and I would say that this question has been expected. There was some consultation with the Secretary of State's office, and their belief was that a Zoom meeting is in fact an in-person meeting and a special meeting, and therefore I would overrule your appeal or your issue on this. Saying that, it requires a special procedural vote for which you would use the function at the bottom of the screen. The question.
Could I just say one thing first in that, please?
No, sorry. I think you have, well, all right, 1 minute. Up, you've been muted. Sorry, hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm good. So that may be true from the perspective of the Secretary of State's office, but did they take into account Robert's rules? That's what's really governing this meeting is Robert's rules. And it's just as clear as can be. You either have, you have one room or one area unless it is specifically authorized in the bylaws to do something different. And there's just no other way that can be interpreted.
Okay, thank you. I think we have heard your point. The question to the assembly now is, shall the moderator's decision to deny the matter raised by the member be sustained? A yes vote, you use the check, and a no vote is the X, and go to your reaction screen and please vote now. I should say that it's a simple majority is required to sustain the action. I'm not, I don't know.
We do have a preponderance of yes votes.
And is there a screen that shows that, or I believe
You can
you're
see
right.
that in your participants panel.
Okay, thank you. We are in Article 1. I'll read it again. Shall the co-op's Articles of Incorporation be amended as follows? Articles for membership. Is there any discussion, comments? I can't see all the screens at once. If somebody is going to raise an issue, I'd like to know it from one of our assistants here.
I have feedback from Jay Wisner, who says, I like the proposed clear and direct statement and believe it clarifies the provision.
Okay.
Thanks for that, Jay.
Anyone else?
Peter Kelman has his hand up.
Go ahead, Peter. Someone
Okay.
should. Yeah,
All
go
right.
ahead.
I like the clear language, but I don't think it's clear enough. When it says no member may vote by proxy, I think they mean no individual member may vote by proxy, because the next sentence basically says an organization can designate a person. So the distinction between an individual member and an organizational member would make it utterly clear. I don't suggest that we amend it now, but I think that at some later time, we ought to take a look at that language and make it utterly clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Anyone else?
I have a request. Sorry, one moment. Yeah, I see a hand. Sorry, whose hand is that?
Paul Olson has his hand up.
Thank you. That's what I was looking for. I'll go ahead and unmute.
I was just wondering, I had an assumption that all members were individuals, so I'm kind of naive here. How many organizational members are they, and what is an example of an organizational member?
I would turn to any member of the committee that can answer that.
This is Kari Bradley, the general manager of the co-op. We have, I don't know the exact number, a couple dozen organizational members. By statute and per our bylaws, only nonprofits and other co-ops can be organizational members of the co-op.
Okay. Anyone else? Any more hands up? Any comments?
I have a request to speak from Elizabeth Jesdale. One moment. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Elizabeth.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Jesdale. I'm a 23-year employee of the co-op. Towards the beginning of this meeting, I put forth a motion to not have voting at this meeting because this way that this is being done is really confusing. I wasn't able to participate in the trial vote because there was no token in my email. And I had tried to speak before this last vote was taking place about the moderator. I had asked to speak before that, and the meeting just kept on going, and I kept writing that I'd like to speak, I'd like to speak, I'd like to speak. And I was told I was in line, so I was in line like 2 or 3 items ago to speak. So how on earth can we take a vote if we can't hear each other speak? We can't take a vote until everybody has been heard. And has not happened on this meeting for a deciding vote on how the meeting is being run. So we can't go forward like this.
Do you have an opinion about the article itself?
You know what? I was trying to say this a long time ago. So now I'm speaking during a time that I didn't get to speak before we were voting on something. And so I'm trying to say what I wanted to say back then. Now
Okay.
let's just say I finished talking and then I want to speak on this thing that's up now and I raise my hand again. And then because you guys aren't letting everybody participate, it goes on to the next item and then my voice isn't being heard on this item.
We're ready
And
to hear you now.
That has already happened. That has already happened during this meeting.
Okay,
And
well,
so I had made a motion that voting not occur in this meeting, and I'm looking for a second. But I have no way of knowing if there's a second or not, because I can't see anybody. And this whole thing is being controlled in such a way that there's not democratic participation.
let me suggest that what
When
you're,
I'm done talking, I'll stop talking, but you don't need to interrupt me. Women get enough of that. Now I'm done, and please go ahead.
I think I would regard your point as a point of order, just as we did with Mr. Donovan. And I take it that you're objecting to the meeting because of the way that it's being managed and the way it's electronically organized. So I would, again, rule against that motion. And I would invite the assembly to vote on whether the moderator's opinion should be sustained. Now you're going to your reactions page and you're going to put your check or your X there and go right ahead and vote on that procedural motion.
And we do have a majority of yeses.
Then the position is sustained. I see Mr. Donovan has a second point of order. We will recognize you now. Mr.
Go ahead
Donovan.
and unmute.
Yeah, okay, I was muted. So my second point of order was, and just to go to Elizabeth's point, this was something I wanted to say 10 minutes ago. And the meeting's moving faster than you can get to people to express what they need to express. And I'll just say again, this is a member of the meeting, a member of the members, meeting of the members, not the council and the committee. My point of order regarding the fixed times for each section of the agenda, this is an improper limitation on members' rights to speak. Members are generally the ones to decide these limitations and not the committee or the chair. There are specific exceptions to this. For instance, there seems to be a 10-minute rule on individual speeches listed in Robert's rules, But Robert's rules also said that members always decide when the debate has been exhausted and they call the question and they end the debate on it, not the chair or the moderator. And also too, as we give our points of order or our objections, you're just having us go to vote on it as a group without even having a discussion on it. That's always the standard procedure is before everybody votes on whether or not they're going to sustain or deny your ruling, the assembly gets to have a discussion on that. And you're not doing that. You're not following the rules correctly.
Okay, we'll take that as a point of order, and I would invite anyone that has a reaction to what Mr. Donovan is raising to speak. Put your hand up and let's hear from you. Any hands up? If not, as with before, the question is, shall the moderator's ruling be sustained? You would go to your reactions page and vote now. As the, how's the vote?
That is sustained. We do have some feedback, as we do have some other input that's coming in through chat regarding this item. Would now be an okay time to
Yes.
bring that up? Great. There was, hold on, I'm gonna scroll back up here. There was an amendment proposed. There was a motion to make an amendment. No member may vote by proxy to read, to change no member may vote by proxy to read, no individual member may vote by proxy.
Okay, David Kreindler has made that motion. Is there a second so that we can consider the amendment? Someone going to second?
I see a second, yes.
Okay, all right. The motion is to amend the article or section 4 to read, no individual member may vote by proxy. Mr. Kreindler, do you want to discuss it?
Sorry, let me unmute him.
Mr. Kreindler?
Yeah, I'm just waiting to be unmuted.
You are unmuted.
This was proposed earlier. I'm just formalizing that proposal in a motion.
Okay. Any comments or questions? Remember, at this point, we're going to be focusing on the amendment, not the original article. And the effect of this vote would be, if it passes, to amend the first article. Any more discussions? Any hands up or comments?
Yes.
Mr. Donovan.
Let's see. Oh. I do have Elizabeth Jesdale again, who has requested to speak.
Okay, Elizabeth.
Hi, this is Elizabeth Jesdale. This is a really bad situation because I've been trying to speak since before this one. I've been trying to speak since the moderator is calling for rules about moderation. We can't go on having this meeting like this. It's not a legit meeting if I can't see, like, I don't know who voted what. I asked what was said, and I was not allowed to ask or find out what was said before the vote. So I didn't even know what I was voting on, and I can't even vote if I don't know what. And this whole thing, I'm just shocked. I came here to participate and had no intention of anything. This is just, I'm in shock
Okay.
that
Anything
we're
else?
not being allowed to participate.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan in chat asks, can the mover of the amendment explain his amendment?
That was David Kreindler.
This clarifies the language with the final two sentences in the proposed amendment create some confusion where it first says no member may vote by proxy. And then it says that a member that is an organization may essentially vote by proxy by delegating an individual to vote. This amendment clarifies that by distinguishing individual members from organizational members in the context of voting by proxy.
Thank you. Remember, the article that we're considering is an amendment to Article 1, so that the second sentence of Article 4, Section 1 would read, no individual member may vote by proxy. Anyone else have an opinion about that or a discussion? If not,
I do see a hand from Celine Blaze. May you like to speak? I can unmute you.
Celine?
Or Celine, you're welcome to put your feedback into chat and we can read it out for you. Kelly McGill, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Kelly McGill. I just wanted to speak against the proposed amendment because as introduced, this amendment would create a special privilege for member organizations above individual members. So the second sentence, as I read it, enables a member who is an organization to have their appointed individual who will speak for them that is authorized, which, as I understand it, it would be the only way that an organization who is not a person might speak at a meeting. As drafted, the amendment would enable that organization to vote by proxy by someone who's not an official appointed representative of the organizations, would actually give a new advantage to a member organization. So I would vote against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Celine, do you want to speak? Could you unmute Celine?
I've given her, there you go. You're unmuted.
It's just horrifying to me what's happening in Ukraine. Horrifying. Gwendolyn Hall-Smith was instrumental in forming the international relationship. I was totally floored walking in here yesterday.
Celine, is your television set on?
From clothes to crutches, band-aids to boots, Randolph rallied. It's a perfect.
Seems like we're.
I think we should put the mute back on.
I apologize, Celine. We could only hear your television in the background. If you want to try again, maybe turn the TV down and try again. Let us know. I do see William Donovan's hand up.
Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, hi again. So I have 2 points of order on this. The first one refers to state law in the Cooperative Marketing Act, Section 995 under Articles. It explains that each association formed under the subchapter shall prepare and file Articles of Incorporation setting forth, I think it's the 6 different elements that we use in the articles. And we are addressing Article 4, is it 4 on this, I believe?
Yes.
So on the 9th point on this, referencing Article 4, it says the Articles of Incorporation of any association organized under this subchapter may provide that the members or stockholders thereof shall have the right to vote in person or through another method of communication, including through a telecommunications or electronic medium, but a member or stockholder may not vote in proxy. This is the key point in this section. This provision or paragraph of the Articles of Association shall not be altered and shall not be subject to amendment. So the council is putting forward a proposed amendment to something that state law says cannot be amended. And we cannot run afoul of our agreement with the state of Vermont. It's also backed up. It's also
Mr. Donovan, wait a minute.
backed up in the following section where they talk about amending the certificate. And it says the certificate of an organization may be altered or amended except as otherwise provided in this subchapter. So there's two different corroborating elements where this Article 4 cannot be amended. And so I request that this be stricken from the possibility for a vote.
Okay, but just to be clear, you had 2 points of order, or is this one with 2 parts?
Oh, yeah, there is another one too. Let me.
Okay, well, hold that thought. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, there isn't. No.
All right, so again, you've heard the point of order. Is there any discussion about that? I recognize Carl Etnier, sorry.
Actually, I was asking to be recognized so that I could move to call the question. We have a lot of business to get through.
Okay, now in the case of moving the question, we need a 2/3 vote to cease debate and to move directly to the vote. At this point, it's seconded. Is not debatable. Please put your vote in on reactions. We'll be looking for a 2/3 vote to stop all debate and get to the vote. Has voting been completed?
We are in excess of 2/3.
Okay, then the next issue is to go directly to the vote, having ceased debate. Again, the article.
I had a second point of order, please.
Go ahead.
So in that last section of the Cooperative Marketing Act that I cited, amendment of certificate, it says an amendment must first be approved by 2/3 of the directors. And I looked through all of the meetings that the council has had since this latest group of council members has met, and I can find no place in there where the council took this up and voted on it.
Okay, I think that's more of a question than it is a point of order, but I'd ask.
Well, it violates state law.
Okay, thank you. Who can answer that question? Who would have information?
I would be happy to do that, Paul.
Carl Etnier.
Yeah, so the Hunger Mountain Council voted to put these bylaws to the members in a meeting on last year. So Billy, if you were looking at the minutes of the current council, then you needed to go back further in time to find that decision.
Mr. Donovan. He needs to be unmuted.
Okay, yeah, I'm unmuted now. So, this goes to a larger point because the council voted to bring all of this to the members like 3 years ago. It is the current sitting council that needs to approve that. And so every time there's an election, if there are new members seated for the council, that council needs to undergo the voting process to approve something. So Carl's point that it was approved last year may be true, but it has to be approved for the new council that just was seated in December, and it has not been. So this is another violation of state
All
law.
right, I will recognize Eva to answer.
Thank you. We voted to move this forward in February of 2022 in this council session.
You voted to give them permission to do this, but you did not vote to approve that article amendment. You did not.
Mr. Donovan, you're out of order.
Okay.
You can't be debating with another person here. It's all through the moderators.
I'm sorry.
No, you know your rules, so you have to follow them just like everyone else.
Okay.
So I would regard us as having finished with at least all the pending points of order that were raised. We have voted to cease all debate, and the question is, shall Article 1, the amendment to the article, oh no, I'm sorry. Shall the Article 1 be amended to read, no individual member may vote by proxy? We'll vote on that now. This is a majority vote. It appears that we have how's the voting going? I'm sorry, I don't have the right screen.
We are currently at 82% of votes cast for, 8% against, and well, the numbers are still changing, but 7 against and 7 abstain.
Okay. Now I'd regard the 90% rule to apply to amendments as well as to the article itself. So
just to clarify, Paul, the 90% rule is amendments to warned articles about revising the bylaws. This is the Articles of Incorporation.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I should have phrased that as a point of order.
Well, I've got the point. I would accept that. So this would be a majority vote. And it appears we have it, and I will rule that the Assembly has taken action in favor of the amendment, Article number 1. The second item, bylaw revisions, reads, shall the co-op's bylaws be revised as presented by the Hunger Mountain?
Wait, point of order. We have voted to amend it. Now we need to vote on the motion.
I'm sorry. Yes, I stand corrected. Just want you to know I'm just carrying this on. So now the article before us is Article 1. Shall the co-op's Articles of Incorporation be amended to read as follows? And I'll read the whole thing this time. Article 4, membership, Section 1. Each member shall have 1 vote in all meetings of members and elections. No, and as a result of the amendment, no individual member may vote by proxy. A member that is an organization may be represented by an individual duly authorized by that organization. At this point, you would be using the other voting mechanism with token.
We can go back and use the same survey.
So you would go with the reactions page?
We can, you can on your ballot, you can just vote using the poll that's up on your ballot right now.
Okay. And as Mr. Etmeyer has reminded me, this is a majority vote. It appears it is a majority and that Article 1 has passed. Thanks for correcting me along the way. Article 2. shall the co-op's bylaws be revised as presented in the Hunger Mountain Co-op bylaw proposal, May 12th, 2022. And the caption is a comprehensive revision of the bylaws, rewriting them in clear and concise language. I'd ask a member to advance it so we may discuss it. And we have someone, I don't know who, but someone has raised their hand, and 3 now. So that's been moved. And is there a second? And there is a second. Therefore, I would then recognize Carl Etnier to discuss, I'm sorry, Stephanie Kaplan to discuss Article 2. This would be a recording.
You are about to vote on the biggest set of changes before you tonight, but also in a way the smallest. The Bylaws Committee scrutinized every single line of the existing bylaws to see if it could be clarified or otherwise improved or just deleted. We then reorganized our bylaws in a more coherent way, simplified and clarified confusing sections, and eliminated unnecessary language and misspellings. At first, we thought we could present you with just a much better written version of our current bylaws. However, as we thought things through and took in ideas from members and from other co-ops, we saw ways to revise the bylaws that we thought would be a great improvement, but not controversial. So the first vote will be on the package of relatively straightforward changes that mostly just clarify or improve the existing bylaws. The ideas for changing the bylaws that proved potentially controversial in our discussions with members are reserved for votes later tonight. We hope you've reviewed the bylaw draft, either in one of our forums or on your own time. The summary of the changes is in the Overview of Changes document that has been posted at the website for this meeting. But just to give you a flavor of some of these changes, here are a few examples that we thought were worth including, and which other members either found no problems with or endorsed outright. For example, the current bylaws allow the council to revoke someone's membership under certain conditions. The proposed revision takes away the council's ability to do that. If your membership fee is paid up, you're a member until you voluntarily leave or you shuffle off this mortal coil. The revised bylaws give more power to the members to hold special meetings by reducing the number of signatures required to call a special meeting to 150. Right now, if the council doesn't want to call a meeting on an issue, it takes 5% of membership, or around 450 people, to sign a petition to have a special meeting anyway. The revised bylaws allow members to inspect records of the co-op, not just financial records as they state now, and clarified exceptions in more detail. We add a requirement for the co-op to facilitate ongoing communication among members and between members and the co-op, not just engage in one-way communication from the co-op to members as it does now. We clarified the criteria for the council's use of executive sessions where members may be excluded. The revised bylaws add checks and balances to the council operations. Right now, under what the bylaws call extraordinary circumstances, the executive committee of the council can act on behalf of the full council. This is so the co-op can act nimbly if it needs to. However, the proposed revision adds the requirement that if the executive committee does declare extraordinary circumstances and then goes ahead and acts on behalf of the full council, that's not the end of the story. They are required to seek ratification of the decisions at the next full council meeting. These are just examples. Coming up with these and other relatively minor but important improvements to the bylaws is what took most of the committee's time. We discussed every line and potential changes multiple times among ourselves and with interested members. So the committee strongly recommends voting yes on these revisions.
Thank you, Stephanie. The floor is open for discussion on Article 2. The comprehensive revisions of the bylaws. This would be a 90% vote. Elizabeth Tisdale.
Point of order, this is a 50% plus 1 vote. If someone chooses to want to amend this, that takes a 90% vote.
Okay, let me just take a quick look at that bylaw So I was not reading it the right way then. Amendments to the Warren proposed bylaws considered may be made only with the approval of 90%. You're correct. So this would be a majority vote. Elizabeth. Would someone unmute her? Yeah, there you go.
So I've had my hand up yet once again for quite a while, trying to speak, and then more things happened, and that's before I could have my voice heard. So unfortunately, this meeting, we're not able to participate democratically in the way that we were in the past. So I'm calling for a point of order for a roll call to verify the quorum. Hunger Mountain Co-op is listed as a participant, as and there's co-hosts who are on there more than once. So I have a point of order for a roll call to verify the quorum.
I'm not sure we have a technical capacity to do a roll call vote, but perhaps I could be advised differently by our technician.
I could assure you that the folks that are here that are not member owners of Hunger Mountain Co-op are not voting.
The number at the bottom of the screen.
The number of people in Zoom does not reflect the number of people who have access to the ballot and who are eligible to vote. As of our last vote, we were at quorum.
Then I would rule that we have a quorum and we may continue. Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, so I mean, just to Elizabeth's point, I'd like to point out that when I scan down through the list of participants, there's sometimes less than 50% of the people are even voting. So it raises questions in my mind about who's actually in the meeting and who isn't. That's point number one. Point number two, to the question at hand, Robert's rules says that in bylaw revisions where there's so much material to be considered, it says a revision of bylaws or lengthy amendment involving more than one section should be considered seriatim or paragraph by paragraph as described in chapter 28. There is no way, it's 7:05 now, this meeting is supposed to end at 8 o'clock. It's taken this group of people 3 years to work on this, and we're being asked to vote on the whole body of this in like 20 minutes. This is ridiculous. There's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be discussed.
Okay, thanks for your point.
And so I'm asking that it be considered paragraph by paragraph and not as a single body of information.
I would disagree with that, and I would ask again for a vote on whether to sustain my decision to proceed with the articles as warned. You may do that through your reactions page. This would be a majority vote.
We have a majority.
Anyone else to discuss Article 2, the comprehensive revision of the bylaws?
We have been getting some feedback in chat. We have a question. Will this rewrite allow future meetings to be held virtually?
Can a member of the committee answer that?
Stephanie, did you want to, or I can jump in? Okay, you're not saying anything, so I guess I'll jump in. Carl Etnayer, chair of the committee. Yeah, so that is something that's permitted under the current bylaws, and we did not do anything in the proposed amendments to change that. So the answer to the question is yes, future meetings will be allowed by Zoom, just like we've had this meeting and our previous 2 annual meetings by Zoom.
Thank you.
Looks like just a comment from a member. We are amending the bylaws. This is a total overhaul. This is regarding the 90% versus majority vote. I can't believe a revision of the bylaws is a simple majority vote. We are doing away with the 90% rule then by fiat, is the comment.
Okay, well, I had consulted the bylaws. Article 1 says amendments to the warned proposed bylaws amendments considered at the annual meeting may be made only with the approval of 90% of those present and voting. So there's the proposed bylaws, and then there's amendments to it. So, but there's no amendment pending at this point. We're simply looking at at Article 2 of the comprehensive revision. I know you want to speak, Mr. Donovan. I want to make sure that everyone has a chance before you speak again, if that would be all right. Is there anyone else who has a comment on Article 2?
Yeah, we have a couple more comments in chat and a couple questions. We have a strong endorsement for the bylaws as presented. Sylvia says, I would like to express my appreciation to the council and the committee for examining and considering the bylaws for 3 years so that members can consider it for only 20 minutes, knowing that thoughtful people have done the due diligence. And Jay said, I strongly endorse the proposed bylaws as presented. There's a question from David. Could someone explain section G, please? How is it decided which method will be used?
Stephanie, do you want to try that? Or Carl?
I don't know what section G refers to. We have articles and then we have numbered sections under the articles.
Perhaps you could read the piece that you're citing so we can know what it is.
Section G of the outline.
If 2 or more vacancies on the council arise at the same time, allowed for a special election to fill vacancies as an alternative to the council filling the vacancies through appointment. Is that your issue and concern?
Yes.
And who can address that? Carl?
Could you tell me what section we're looking at?
It's on the overview.
On the overview. Okay, I'm pulling up the overview. Right, so under the current, thank you, under the current bylaws, if there is a vacancy on the council, then the sole way of filling the vacancy is by the council appointing someone to fill that vacancy. And the spirit of the changes that we made, the substantive changes, very many of them, is to give more power to the members of the co-op. And so what this change would do would be to say, okay, if we have 2 vacancies or 3 vacancies at the same time, then instead of the council having, say there are 3 vacancies and there are 6 people left on the council, instead of those 6 people having the power to choose, the sole power to choose the 3 people to join them on the council, then this would allow for a special election in which all members could vote.
Any other questions or comments on Article 2 from chat or Mr.
We see Peter Kelman's had his hand up here. Let's unmute you.
Peter, go ahead.
I'd like to speak in favor of the motion and make 2 points. Mr. Donovan, particularly, I'd like you to listen. We are all working in the pandemic. This is difficult for everyone. The committee has worked very, very hard on this. Is this a perfect document? No. Is this a vast improvement over the wording in the old document? Absolutely. Is this taking too much time? Yes, because you are delaying us. Let's forget about any more points of order and proceed and get this done. Thank you.
I get a chance to respond to that, please. I just want to say to you, Mr. Kelman, you just made an argument against democracy. I have a right to my opinion. Our bylaws and Robert's rules provide that we're all allowed a chance to speak. And it's noxious that you would enter into a conversation like that in the middle of this meeting. I'm allowed to have my opinion. Thank you.
Paul, it looks like you're muted. You're trying to speak and you're muted.
We do have in chat, we have a member who would like to move the question. Kevin O'Donnell has moved the question. And actually there's another member, Mark Zimikowski, as well.
All right, the motion again requires a 2/3 vote. Moving the question means ceasing debate and going directly to a vote. All in favor of taking that action, vote on your reaction screen, please. This would be a 2/3 vote, as I said.
And we have our numbers.
Would you read them for me? I don't know where the screen is.
74 yeses, 3 noes, 4 noes.
All right, then we are moving directly to the question. And again, this is Article 2, the comprehensive revisions. Shall the co-op's bylaws be revised as presented in the Hunger Mountain Co-op bylaw proposal of May 12th, 2022? All in favor, vote on the with using your tokens, and those opposed, the same. I'll give you a couple more minutes. Looks like we have obtained it. I would declare Article 2 as having passed. Move on to Article 3. Article 3. Stay with me for a minute. Article 3 says that it proposes a series of amendments. If you have in the overview, it shall section 6.3 of the co-op's bylaws be revised as follows. And there's 4 items there. As before, I would call on a member to move the question so we may consider it.
So moved.
And is there a second?
We have a second.
At this point, I would ask Stephen Farnham to his audio recording to advise us about this article.
Okay. Voting item number 3, revising some voting procedures. If passed, this revision to the bylaws will bring about 2 changes. 1, all amendments to warned items offered from the floor during member meetings will require a 2/3 majority to pass. 2, the member meeting voting period will be shifted so that it begins at the member meeting and concludes 14 days later, as opposed to the current practice where the voting period ends at the member meeting. I should begin by clarifying this voting item is the second of 5 warned amendments to the bylaws we'll be discussing and voting, which, if approved, will modify the bylaws regardless of the outcome of the vote on the main revision. These warned amendments should not be confused with amendments offered from the floor during the meeting to which this proposal refers. A voting item that is warned for a vote at a member meeting can be modified by an amendment that is moved, seconded, and approved from the floor during the meeting. Because the floor amendments have not been vetted prior to the meeting or warned to members in advance, they may cause unknown or unintended consequences. The current bylaws require a simple majority, 50% plus one, for such amendments to pass, except for amendments to a bylaws revision for which the current bylaws require a 90% vote to pass. If this voting item is passed as written, it'll eliminate both current requirements, simple majority or a 90% majority, to pass amendments offered from the floor during a meeting, and set a uniform requirement of 2/3 vote to pass any amendment to any warned item at a member meeting. The object is to make amendments from the floor possible, while the 2/3 vote requirement ensures passage can only be successful with strong support of the members present. This voting item also modifies the process for council elections and all other matters which members can vote on by Australian ballot, be it paper or electronic. If passed as written, this provision will start such voting at a member meeting and continue it for 14 subsequent days instead of the current practice where ballot voting begins well before the member meeting and ends at the member meeting. Under current practice, most votes are cast before any discussion can take place on the voted items. This change enables the candidates to introduce themselves and allows for an informed discussion of the candidates and the items to be voted during the meeting before most votes are cast, which enables voters to be more informed prior to voting. To review, passing this amendment to the bylaws will bring about two changes. One, all amendments offered from the floor during member meetings will require a 2/3 majority to pass. Two, the member meeting voting period will be shifted so that it begins at the member meeting and concludes 14 days later, as opposed to the current practice where the voting period ends at the member meeting. Again, this is to facilitate discussion prior to the vote to enable the members to be better informed prior to voting. The committee recommends these changes and encourages your support of this revision. Thank you.
Any comments or questions relating to Article 3, the amendment of Section 6.3 of the co-op's bylaws?
Just a clarifying question from a member. If we pass this now, will the 14 days period apply to votes on any items today? Any of the following items today?
Can someone address that?
I can address that, Paul.
Thank you.
So everything that we vote on today and pass takes effect at the end of the meeting. So we are operating under our current bylaws until the end of this meeting. So no.
Mr. Donovan.
Yeah, I have a simple question on. We just voted on section, we just voted in the large body of bylaws on this section. So I have two questions. One is, why are we doing it again? Why wasn't this language just included in that larger body? And I'm forgetting my second question. Yeah, the second question is.
We'll take one question at a time so we can keep it straight.
Yeah.
Carl.
Thank you, Paul. The comprehensive revision of the bylaws that we just voted on had to, in order to stand by itself, include an article about voting. And that section on voting gives exactly the same substantive rules about voting as we had in the bylaws last amended in 2012. So there were no substantive changes made in that. We introduced substantive changes in this article here, and we think that they're only for the better. We did not hear any objections to them from the people we talked to in the 2 rounds of collecting member feedback on drafts of our work, but we wanted to make absolutely sure that if there were objections to how we vote on things, that they could be expressed by voting this article or this provision down without affecting the vote on the comprehensive revision.
Thank you. Mr. Donovan, your second question.
Yeah, my second question is, so I've been following what the committee and the council has been doing on this, and this seems like a late addition to the plan. I'm wondering if the council, if this council that's currently seated has approved this to be on the agenda for tonight.
Someone can address that?
Yes.
At what meeting was this approved, please?
It was approved when we approved moving forward with presenting this in a special member meeting. It was
So that
under
would be
umbrella.
that would be
that
Mr.
is
Donovan.
that's my final answer.
Mr. Donovan, remember, you cannot conduct a cross-examination with the people that are talking. You're going through me. We're going to follow Robert's rules, remember?
Yeah.
Is your hand up because you want to speak again?
We do have some other.
All right, well, I'll come back to you. Who else has a comment on Article 3?
There was a question. If I am not at the meeting and an amendment passes, how will I get informed about voting?
Someone answer that, Carl?
Thank you, Paul. There are provisions in the bylaws to inform all members about all votes, and that includes information mailed to all members. And that's true now, and that will not change by this. So you will get that information through the mail. And as you've seen for this meeting, we generally have extensive campaigns to let you know. We did tabling, we had forums, it was included in the electronic newsletter sent out to people, a couple of sessions on WDEV, another one on WGDR. So the co-op historically has not stinted on information to members about upcoming meetings and votes.
Thanks, Carl. There's another question. Hold on, I just lost it. Why are they included together? Why is 2/3 forced at the same time as the 14-day extension?
Carl?
We, as I said, we wanted to separate out the changes in this section from the rest of the bylaws, the comprehensive bylaw change, because we did not want any objections to the voting procedures to sync what we just approved by an overwhelming majority. We're not so fearful about this. We think these are both improvements, and we support them as a committee. And nobody that we talked to in previous feedback sessions objected to either of them. But we didn't feel strong. We've got enough votes happening tonight. We've got 7 votes scheduled to happen in the next 33 minutes. And we didn't see it was necessary to schedule yet another vote to separate them out.
Joel, do you see any other comments? My chat box doesn't seem to say the same things yours does, so.
Yeah, chat got a little screwy. I do have a hand up from Elizabeth Jesdale, who's been waiting to speak. Elizabeth, go ahead.
Elizabeth?
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Jesdale. I'm wondering if when people speak, they can say their name, because I'd like to know who's speaking. Just earlier, there was a question that was answered by somebody, by a woman did the answering of the question, but person wasn't identified. So I don't know who that was or what their role is in this process.
That was Eva Schechtman who said yes to that answer. But we'll
Okay,
try to
so
do better in the future.
can people identify themselves? Because otherwise we don't know what's going. I mean, we have such a small, tiny way to participate at all in this meeting. And we need to know who's
We'll see that's done.
speaking.
Michael Levine.
Go ahead and unmute, Michael.
Michael, you need to unmute yourself.
Got it. Okay. I thought that came from central control there. So I was the one who asked the question that Carl answered about how I might get informed about the vote if an amendment passed.
Yes.
And Carl's answer was clear, but I don't see how that happens in 14 days. So I'm wondering where the 14-day time period comes in. It just seems like an awful lot of follow-up to the meeting to get to the members within the 14 days for this more informed membership to be voting.
Okay, I think I may have misunderstood the question in my previous answer. Paul, may I reply to that?
Yeah, now remember, because Elizabeth asked, we're going to give your name.
This is Carl Etnayer.
Thank
Yes. Yeah, Carl Etnayer, Chair of the Bylaws Committee. So this amendment, if passed, would apply, the 14-day period would apply to articles that are voted on by paper or electronic ballot. And under the current bylaws and under the bylaws that we have just passed, those are not subject to amendment. Just as on town meeting day, if you have a discussion on town meeting floor and the article is moved there, it can be amended. If you have something voted on by Australian ballot, it cannot be amended. You just vote yes or no. So is that clearer, Michael?
Yes. So
Okay.
the amendment then, the amendment.
Carl's voice
process-
stopped. Is that something?
Can you hear me?
No, I
Yes, we
stopped
can.
talking and asked Michael to respond.
Oh, I see.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
Okay, great. Okay, so just to be clear, the amendment process will take place within the bounds of the meeting that the amendment is proposed.
So the only things that can be amended, I think the answer is yes. So let me rephrase it. The only things that can be amended under the current bylaws, or if this passes, would be questions that are eligible for vote on the floor of a member meeting.
Okay, so what's the logic behind the 14-day extension on those other votes?
The logic is there is a period of time under which voting takes place now by paper or electronic ballot. And I don't know if it's exactly 14 days, but at some period before meeting, you start voting on the council members, for example, and then that vote ends at the meeting. That means that almost all the voting has taken place before you have the meeting, before the candidates have a chance to stand up before the members and introduce before there's any discussion, if it's an article to be discussed, to be voted on, before there's any discussion at a meeting. This would say, hey, voting takes place over a period of time by paper or electronic ballot. We're going to start it at the meeting so that voting happens after candidates have introduced themselves or after there's been a discussion at the meeting.
Okay, so just to close this out. So these items 7, 8, and 9, which would go through that process, those are all things that could not be amended at the meeting that starts the 14-day period.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. Donovan.
I want to get back in on a question that I had for Eva. She mentioned that the council had voted on that, and I was wondering if it was in the February meeting, because she didn't specify which meeting it was in. That's one of my questions, and after she answers that, I have a comment.
Eva?
This is Eva Sheckman, Council President. The answer is yes. And again, any questions about the council giving permission to the committee to go forward with the special meeting or anything having to do with bylaws revisions are covered under that vote in February. Thank you.
You had another point, Mr. Dunham?
Yeah, I'm wondering if we still have a quorum. There's 104 participants showing, and it was said that there's a number of people who are not members.
Joel?
As long as everybody, the only people here who aren't members are me, as far as I know.
Okay. David
So
Kreindler.
technically, we're at 102.
David Kreindler. Unmute, yeah.
Thank you, David Kreindler. I'd like to echo Elizabeth's confusion about how sloppily this meeting is being run. We were told at the beginning of the meeting that we could propose motions either in the chat or by raising our hand. I put a motion in the chat 10 minutes ago, long before other people raised their hands and were recognized, but my motion's been ignored. So what's the process, and are we following the process, or are we failing to follow the process?
I think it would be ideal if you would go ahead and state your motion, and we can deal with it now. Do you have a motion, Mr. Kreindler?
Did he mute himself again?
Yeah.
If I could just address that question really quick, I am trying my level best to raise the questions and comments that are coming in the order that I'm receiving them.
Okay, no one, it doesn't matter. We'll take one thing at a time, but Mr. Kreindler, do you have your motion that we can hear?
Yeah, my motion is that we divide this question voting on subsection 6 separately. Although the Bylaws Committee seems to believe that this is non-controversial, I think that that subsection does contain some controversy, and I'd like to divide it and vote on it separately.
That's fine. Is there a second to that motion?
And could just, Paul, could you restate, just because there's some audio issues and some people are having trouble hearing?
Well, if I understand it correctly, we would, before we move to vote on all of the changes in voting item 3, we would vote separately on 6.36, which reads, if adopted, to amend warrant items voted on the floor vote. On by floor vote at an annual or special meeting, a motion shall pass if approved by 2/3 of those present and voting. And that's where the 90% disappears and 2/3 replaces it. So discussion of 6.36, we'll take that separately and proceed to a vote when we're done with comments. Comments on 6.36. Ms. Chesdale.
You can just call me Elizabeth, not Miss. Thank you. My name's Elizabeth Jesdale, co-op member. I understand that the fellow who's working the chat, I'm not sure who is working the chat, but somebody just spoke and said they're trying their best. And I appreciate that. And believe me, I know firsthand we've gone through a pandemic, and I know how challenging it is to get things done and have things go smoothly. And I also know that people's patience is very, very appreciated. And that's all well and good. But we can't use that as an excuse for not allowing people to speak when their hand is raised or they put something in the chat and it gets ignored, or their questions don't get answered in time so that they have the information that they need to be able to vote in this meeting or participate in this meeting. And I just don't see how this can be a legit meeting.
Yes, I understand. Do you have a comment on 6.36?
No, I'd like my question answered about how can this be a legit meeting?
Well, that's not before us now. We're talking about an amendment, or we're talking about a vote to be taken on 6.36 of the bylaws. Mr. Scott Hess.
I'd like to call the question.
Okay. All in favor of ceasing debate and going directly to a vote, say aye. I mean, indicate in the reactions page.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Then we're taking up 6.36, and this would be a vote again under reaction. So all in favor of adopting 6.36, please vote now.
I believe Paul, point of order, I believe the motion was to split these into two separate votes. It was a procedural motion. It requires a 90% vote to pass. I'm Carl Etnier.
Yes. I'm not sure if I agree with you. I think that this is the procedural motion is simply to change the order in which we provide the votes, and I think it's proper for a motion to be made to split it off, and if it's seconded, that we can move directly to that vote. So I would disagree with you on that.
I defer to the chair or to the moderator.
Well, thank you. And I see hands up, Eve Jacobs Carnahan and Nicole Dio, but we're acting under a vote to proceed immediately to that vote. And I'm getting a little lost myself here. I guess it's time to vote on that through the reactions page. This would be on 6.36.
What are we voting on? Splitting?
Clarification, please.
No, we're voting on
Are we voting on the amendment?
Yes, my conclusion is that the motion to. No, I can be corrected. All right, let's move instead on the procedural question to be voted on under restrictions as to whether we should split 6.36 off of the rest of the item 3. Majority vote.
And we did have a second for this motion, just FYI.
Yeah, I recall, yes. What is the outcome of the vote?
Does not pass.
Does not pass. Therefore, we are back to discussing voting item 3 in its entirety. And are there any other comments? Now, I guess we could go to the comments from, well, there were some hands up.
The question has been moved numerous times now, so.
Well, are you ready for the question then? If so, using your tokens, vote on Shell's section 6.3, including 6, 7, 8, and 9, be revised as it is proposed on the warning. And the motion passes. So we go on to Article Let me just note that it's 7:43 and we are on Article 4, which is shall the following language be added to the bylaw?
Mountain Co-op is dedicated.
My apologies.
Just to jump ahead a little bit, this is Sue Zikas but don't do that until I finished reading the article and we've moved and seconded. So shall the following language be added to the bylaws, Article 10 of the 1012 bylaws, or if the 2020 bylaws have passed, section 2.6 C, the compensation, range of wages and list of available benefits for all employee positions at the co-op shall be provided in writing to any member who requests it. Will someone move that article so we can consider it? I see we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Second with an echo. And now we will hear from Sue Zikas on this one.
Hunger Mountain Co-op is dedicated to bringing its member owners true transparency by responding to requests which ensure the cooperative democratic ownership is in place. In the essay, 3 Strategic Concepts for the Guidance of Cooperatives, it is stated that a cooperative is made transparent not only by good communication, but by structures and operations that members can see are designed around their own needs. Currently, members are able to see the wage scale for unionized positions, but not for management employees. By passing this bylaw change, member owners would be able to request a list of the range of wages and available benefits for all employee positions at our co-op. The Bylaws Committee doesn't have a consensus position on this issue. We heard from both members and employees who believe that member owners have a right to know how much employees are being paid. We also heard from employees who did not expect, when hired, to have their salary be public knowledge, and they expressed dismay at the prospect that the information would become public. This language attempts to balance the competing interests by providing information about compensation for positions, not individuals. Still, some individuals will be identifiable from the position title. In a small organization, the same applies to staff members. Currently, the compensation of some individuals is identifiable through information about their position.
Is that the end of the recording?
It is.
There, all right. It's been moved and seconded. We've heard the synopsis. Are there any comments about Article 4? Elizabeth Chesdale.
Hi, Elizabeth Chesdale. So earlier, there was a person who interrupted to ask a question if it was an amendment or a second amendment, and they got to verbally interrupt the meeting and get their question answered. The rest of this body does not have that ability. So I don't know how we can have a democratic process when we've got questions to things that happened a while ago that we can't get answers to.
Do you have a comment on item 4, transparency of compensation?
I'm commenting because I've been trying to get these answers from way back in the beginning of the meeting. And there's no place here for discussion, or there's nobody I can go walk up to and be like, hey, can you let me know how this and that works? And I'm waiting for questions through the chat that I've asked through the chat, and I still don't have answers. And then the voting gets takes place when I haven't even had the chance to find out what I'd like to find out.
All right, do you have a question
I don't
about?
understand how this can be. I
Ma'am,
don't see how we can keep going with, my name's Elizabeth. I don't know how we can keep going with the meeting when we can't get the things, the tools and the information that we need to be able to make choices, let alone participate.
if you have a question about item 4, this is the time to make it, or a comment. David Kreindler.
Yeah, I have a comment and more. My comment is that the meeting's over controlled, as Elizabeth pointed out. People should be able to unmute themselves. We're adults. We can silence ourselves, or the host can silence someone who's speaking out of turn. We also don't have the ability to chat with one another. We can only send messages to the co-hosts. If I wanted to send a message to Elizabeth or Billy Donovan, I have no ability to do that within the meeting. And there's no reason for the people who designed this particular Zoom meeting to impose those restrictions on us. That said, I call the question.
Remember, calling the question is a 2/3 vote. It requires, and it means that all discussion after that ceases. This time, using your reactions button, please vote on whether to cease debate and move directly to the vote on this article.
We have the numbers.
Do we have it? What's the 2/3 voted to cease debate?
Yes.
Then the Article 4 is up for a vote. Shall the following language be added to the bylaws? Article 10 of the 2012 bylaws, or if the 2020 bylaws have passed section 2.6C, to read the compensation, range of wages, and list of available benefits for all employee positions at the co-op shall be provided in writing to any member who requests it. You may begin voting now. It appears the motion has, the article has passed by a substantial majority. Go on to Article 5, Council Member Freedom of Expression.
Voting item number 5.
Shall the following language be added to the bylaws? Article 10 of the 2012 bylaws, or if the 2020 bylaws have passed, as section 3.5, council member freedom to speak frankly to membership. When the council asks for input or decisions from member owners, council members enjoy the same rights of debate as other member owners. For other council decisions, council members may respond frankly to inquiries about council decisions or comment on their own opinions on the decision. Council members shall not work to undermine council decisions either publicly or privately. Will someone move the article?
Voting item number 5, council.
Sorry. And will someone second? And then for that, Scott Hess will inform us through his audio presentation.
Voting item number 5, council member freedom of expression. It's important that when the council makes a decision on behalf of the co-op, the whole governing body stands behind the decision as a cohesive unit. It is detrimental to the process if the council members work to undermine a council decision in private or in public forum. This one voice concept is part of the expectations of council members in the co-op's policy governance documents. It's a common practice or principle for most boards of directors to operate in this manner. It provides for a respectful and more efficient decision-making process.
The motion of the Article 5 has been moved and seconded, and we've heard the audio. Is there any discussion of that article? I see no. Mr. Krangler.
I find the language here to be ominous. It says that council members may respond frankly and may not work to undermine council decisions. I understand the role of democratic centralism, but there's no mechanism here for what the consequence or who determines what undermining a decision is. All it does is cast a dark cloud on council members. And so unless somebody can convince me otherwise, I find myself opposed to this amendment.
Genuine differences of opinion about what is best for the co-op can arise among
That's the continuation. It was cut off if you want to continue the rest of it.
Oh.
Paul, if you'd like, I can just respond to the question. Okay, so thank you for the question, David. Joel, can we get the audio off, please? Thank you. Yes, I understand your point, David. And if we'd been able to hear the rest of the audio, I think it would have explained that under current procedures, well, the current bylaws are silent on this question. There is a policy document which talks about the one voice policy of the council. And that is framed in a way, David, that I think you would find more objectionable than this. That merely says when and I'm paraphrasing, when the council holds a vote that the council members won't work to undermine it. In the past, previous council members have interpreted that to mean that if somebody who elected them, a member who elected them, came up to them and asked, hey, why did you vote in the minority on such and such? They were not allowed to answer that. And we wanted to make it clear that that's just good responsive council membership to be able to answer those questions. And also we wanted to make it clear that the one voice policy doesn't apply at all to discussions like we're having today. If there's anybody on the council today who objects to anything that we're putting before the members for a vote, then we would like them to be able to say why, to do so at the meeting, to do so before the meeting. So this actually empowers council members to speak more freely than is understood by some people from the current policy governance.
I do have a question here in chat from Alex. The one voice principle is critical to making the board a unified governing body. This amendment is unclear to me. Does it allow council members to criticize individually decisions made by the council as a whole?
Paul, you're muted.
Stephanie Kaplan.
I think that was the purpose of having the language in there about the council members should not work to undermine council decisions. So maybe it's a fine point, but we understood that council members can be honest about how they feel without attacking or trying to undo or criticize the rest of the council for making a particular decision. I do think that's an important distinction, and that's what was meant by saying that they can state their own opinions, but not undermine the council decisions. And I think people are capable of doing that.
Apologies for that audio situation there. I'm going to mute you, Stephanie. Great, hopefully that answered your question. I do see, I would like to move the question by member Kevin. Were there other hands? You want to get the hands before we move the question, Paul?
Paul, you're muted.
All right. I note that we are at 7:58 and that I'm assuming, Joel, that when 8 o'clock comes, this Zoom is over.
No.
No, I
That's
thought we had a 2 hour.
8 o'clock is when we said that the meeting would run till. But nothing happens. We don't Zoom doesn't turn into a pumpkin at 8.
All right, well, that's fine. That's not my concern then. There was a motion to cease debate on this article. Again, the effect of it is to move directly to a vote, and it requires a 2/3 vote. You may now vote through your reaction screen. Has a vote been taken? Is there a 2/3 vote?
Yes.
All right, then we'll move to the question itself. Shall the following language be added to the bylaws? Article 10 of the 2012 bylaws, or if the 2020 bylaws have passed, as section 3.5, council member freedom to speak frankly to members. When the council asks for input or decisions from member owners, council members enjoy the same rights of debate as other member owners. For other council decisions, council members may respond frankly to inquiries about council decisions or comment on their own opinions on the decision. Council members shall not work to undermine council decisions either publicly or privately. You may now vote using your tokens. I would note that a note from Mr. Donovan says my token has disappeared. I can't vote. Joel, can you assist on that?
Sure, just head back to the link. I'll put it in chat.
Everyone's voted. Article 5 passes. Article 6, defining an annual retreat differently than other council meetings. Shall the following language be added to the bylaws? Article 10 of the 2012 bylaws, or if the 2022 bylaws have passed, as section 7.5, council retreat. Notwithstanding open meeting and executive session rules, the council may hold an annual retreat for the purposes of strategic planning and building of interpersonal relationships among members of the council. The council may make its retreat open to the membership, and it will provide a summary of topics discussed as part of the minutes from its next regular council meeting. No formal or binding action will be taken at the retreat. Someone to move the article?
Paul, I actually have a motion to adjourn. Is that in order?
It is in order at any time.
Okay, and the reason for the motion to adjourn is that the bylaw committee was really thankful.
Actually, pardon me, but I should have a second before you go.
Thank you.
Explain it. Is there a second? I don't know. There is a
Scott Hess just seconded it. So the reason for the motion to adjourn is that the bylaws committee is really thankful to all the people who came out on a beautiful May evening to spend the time with us. And we pledged that we would have a 2-hour meeting. It is now just past 2 hours. We want to thank everybody for their patience. We ordered the items to be voted on in what we thought was a priority for getting them passed. We would like to see a vote on this one and the next one, but it's not so important that we want to try the patience of the members who've been so dedicated to come here tonight.
A motion to adjourn takes a 2/3 vote, and at this time you would, using your reactions function, would cast your vote. I'm told that the list of winners of the raffle will be announced by a separate email. The vote, how was the vote?
It's close. No, it's not. We do not have 2/3 on this one.
Okay, then we're still in session. I guess we're going to vote. Now I lost my place. I think we're to vote on Article. No, we're just considering Article 6. So I've read it. It's been, help me here. I believe it's been seconded and moved and seconded. And we should await a discussion by Carl Etnayer.
I have a procedural question, actually. We are now officially below quorum. Did we take our quorum check at the beginning of the meeting or for each vote?
Normally in assemblies, you don't raise the question after you've attained quorum. But if someone does raise the issue, then the meeting cannot go forward if the quorum is not present. And I see the quorum is not present. And so I suppose we cannot take effective action. And we may want to revisit the motion to adjourn. Mr. Kreindler?
Again, I'd like to complain. I would have raised a point of order at the last item that we voted on. There were people with their hands raised, waiting to be recognized when someone in the chat somehow was recognized to call the question. But there were already people waiting to speak on that item. Therefore, they should have been given the opportunity to speak before calling the question. And I would therefore argue that the vote that we took on the previous amendment was not valid because we did not follow Robert's rules.
Roberts requires us to take up the issue of ceasing debate even in the middle of someone's comments. So it may sound crude, but that is in accord with the rules. Mr. Young, James Young. I'm allowing this discussion, but I think really, I don't know that we have a meeting. So it may be.
I'm just trying to ask if there was not a quorum for the previous votes, do those hold or are they deemed invalid?
I believe it's only that I believe we have voted, and I remember looking at the bottom and it was 101. So we had a quorum for.
Because there was some question about how many votes were actually taken or received.
Well, quorum is how many people are in the meeting.
Oh, okay, so that's not.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
But I think I have to end this meeting, and I can't even ask to adjourn. We're below quorum. Nothing that's said or done from now on will have any binding effect. And I think the best we can do is wish each other good evening. Thank you for attending.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
At 8 o'clock and then go.
Thank you very much, everybody.